Hi, I'm Jeremiah Clark with Lowrance Electronics, and today I'm going to show you how to take one of our new Hook 5 units from the box to the boat. We're going to install it in our 14-foot Hobie Pro Angler kayak. I'm going to show you how easy of an install this is and how quickly it can be done with just basic hand tools, a screwdriver and a pair of pliers or a wrench. The first thing we're going to do is take you through what actually comes in the box. So here we have our new Lowrance Hook 5 GPS fish finder combo. Inside, we have our owner's manual and warranty stuff. We'll set that aside for later. We have our Hook 5 unit. Take out the little separating tray to keep everything nice and safe. We have our transducer, which will show you guys how to walk through the installation of that in the Hobie Pro Angler. It's very simple with the Hobie Lowrance Ready kit. We have our bracket, which we're actually not going to use for this install because we're going to use a ram mount bracket that goes on the Hobie A-Trail system, plugs right into the back of the Hook 5 unit. So we'll set that aside. And then we also have our power cable, fuse, and some mounting accessories for the transducer. Now that we've got everything out of the box, we're going to go ahead and take all the pieces that we don't need, set those aside. Not much prep you have to do on the unit itself. Just take the bag off, set it aside for later. We're going to take the transducer kit, open it up, and inside you have the slide piece for the top. You have the transom bracket, which you're not going to use again for the Hobie Lowrance Ready system. They come with everything you need. So out of this kit, this is the only piece you're going to need for the transducer installation. So I'm taking the transducer, and the slide piece literally just goes right in the top in this little track, slides till it locks in place, and we're good to go. I've already removed the Lowrance Ready plate from the bottom of the kayak. Hobie comes with this kit already installed in the boats. It's held in by 3 screws, which we've removed and had ready for here. On the top, you'll see 2 bars. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take this transducer using the hardware provided with your Hobie Pro Angler, so it sits in the holder like this. All right, so we're going to use the supplied hardware that comes with the Hobie kayak. It has the grommets that you need for cable routing, which we'll show as we get to the boat, but it also has all the bits and pieces you'll need to mount the transducer to this bracket. So inside, you've got these little star-shaped brackets. The larger one is if you were to use the 50 200 kilohertz transducer, and the smaller one is for the 83 200 kilohertz transducer we have today. So we'll take the pieces we need, set aside the rest. You've got 2 brackets. You have a screw or a bolt, the nut, and then the 2 little metal pieces, which are all the way down here in the bottom of the bag right now, that go on the outside. So those are the pieces you will need to install this transducer in the Hobie Ready system. So you'll take both of the T-shaped pieces, which have a small ratchet on either side that made up to the transducer itself, hold them in place, and then you'll just slide them in the groove of the Lowrance Ready mounting bracket. Slide them all the way down until basically the transducer's pretty much sitting on the bottom. You have your 2 outer metal pieces that we'll go ahead and thread the end of the bolt through one end. Thread the bolt through the transducer and through your little T-shaped pieces. The other bracket on the other side, and then we just simply tighten the screw and the nut. One thing to make sure you do here is you don't have to be overly precise with this, but you do want the transducer parallel with the bottom of this plate so that way you get a good sonar signal. Then we just grab our screwdriver and our pliers and just snug it up. Now that we have this assembled, all we have to do is take this to the boat, route the cable, and mount the Lowrance Ready Hobie plate to the bottom of the kayak. Now that we've got everything down here at our boat, we're going to go ahead and flip the kayak up on its side and install the Lowrance Ready system in the bottom of the hull. Now let's go ahead and stretch the cable all the way out so we can get these kinks out of the way and make it a lot easier when you're running it through the hull. And now we just simply grab the end of the cable, we run it up through the hole in the bottom of the kayak. We'll go around to the other side, pull all the slack through, and then we'll tighten up the Hobie plate. All right, now that we have our cable pulled through, all we have to do is simply hold this up to the bottom, take our screws, and just thread them right back into the threaded inserts on the bottom of the hole. We'll get them all started, and then we'll go around and snug them all up. All right, and just like that, we've already got the transducer mounted on the bottom. The beauty of this install, it's nice and clean. There's nothing hanging off the bottom of the boat. You don't have to hang anything off the side of the boat. You don't have to try to glue anything to the inside of these holes. It's just bolt the transducer to the plate, bolt the plate to the hole. All right, now that we have our cable pulled through and our transducer mounted, the next thing we're gonna do is just simply take off a lot of the things that make it easier to access for actually routing the cable. So the first thing I'm gonna do is remove the seat. On this boat, it's really easy. You just take off the retaining clip. Seat pulls forward right out of its mount. We'll set that aside. I'm also gonna open up the hatch, take out the tackle boxes and the tackle box tray, and set this off to the side as well. That's gonna give me access to the inside of the boat so I can actually route my cables. The nice thing on these Pro anglers that they have is the ability to have the cable and the transducer go to either side you want. So if you want the unit on your left, you can use the Lowrance ready plug to that side. If you want it on your right, you can use the Lowrance ready plug right here. And the cable all feeds through the transducer hole right below the seat mount. So to go out of the transducer grommet, we're gonna go ahead and do some other things that'll give it a little easier access. We'll just release the bungee straps, get these out of the way. You open up this back hatch, and this is the part in the installation where you kind of got to get pretty intimate with your kayak. You're gonna have to reach your arm way in here and undo the nut on the back side of this to allow you to have access and remove this. So go in the back access hatch, you reach way forward, and you kind of unscrew this guy. And it just comes right out. So now I've got the nut off the back side. The cable grommet just simply comes out. You'll see that this is the nut on the inside. This is the grommet. There's a nice O-ring to help keep the boat watertight. And then there's also a plug. So when the boat's not being used with the sonar connection, this plug keeps the water out. Part of that kit that I showed you guys earlier for the transducer mounting also has all the different individual grommets that we'll use to help seal this back up so we don't have a big hole in the boat. So I just grabbed that kit, take a few of them out of the bag, set them aside. What we're looking for is one that we know will fit around this cable and provide us a good seal. So you may have to try a few, figure out which one it's gonna be. That one right there fits really well. That's the one we're gonna use, and we just pull it off the little tree that it comes on there. And now that's your cable grommet that you're going to use to put back in here when you go to seal the boat back up. Now that we have our grommet picked out, all you have to do is run the cable inside the hole, and you'll just reach inside and feed the cable through. Again, you're going to want to make sure you decide which direction you pick to go, whether it's down the left side or down the right side. There's some foam supports inside to help to keep the deck nice and firm, and you kind of want to route behind each one of those so that way you don't have the cable running just right down through the middle of the boat. All right, so now that I've got that started, I'm gonna reach in this access hatch where I'd already taken out the tackle boxes and go ahead and start to pull the cable through. And again, just kind of a personal preference, but I'd prefer to run the cable behind these foam supports so that way it's nice and clean install. You don't have to do that. It's just kind of the way I like it. I like to have a nice clean access in here if I ever need to get inside. So now it's just pull the cable through. And you kind of have to every so often just give it a little unkink. This cable was coiled up for a really long time and it kind of wants to stay that way. All right, so before you run this guy through the hole, one thing you want to make sure you do is you pre-install your gasket on the outside and your tightening nut on the inside It's a real pain if you go through the entire installation and realize you forgot this step. Now that I have the cable pulled about halfway through, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this other cable grommet right here on the side. It's just held in place by 3 screws. Comes out nice and easy. And this is where we'll route our power and transducer cable back out to the unit. The beauty of this system is, again, all the cables are contained below deck. It's a nice clean install. You don't have wires going across where your fishing rods are going to get tangled in it or your hooks are going to get tangled in it. So now that I've got the cable routed down the right side of the hole, it's really just a matter of reaching in, poking it up through the hole. You're going to want to pull out a little slack because our unit's actually going to be mounted right about here. And we'll just kind of set this aside for now. The next thing we're going to need to do is go ahead and wire up the power and then mount the bracket. All right, now that we've got the transducer installed, the next step is to actually connect all the power. One thing we're using is the Hobie Fish Finder install kit. This contains a bracket, the battery, power cable, and a charger. We're going to show you where the battery bracket mounts. I'm going to show you how to wire everything up. This is an optional kit from Hobie. This isn't included as part of the standard Lowrance kit, but it makes the install really clean and gives you everything you need to get installed and going. So for the battery mounting, we've already got the mount installed, but I'll show you where it is. You open this front hatch, take out the liner tray, and you can see down at the base of this mast mount, there's a battery holder with a clamp that just simply bolts right to that. Nice, easy install. So go ahead and take our battery. We'll install it in the pre-installed mount. Just slides into place, kind of latches. Nice thing on their battery is it already has this little waterproof plug. So this is where your charger plugs in. It's also where your power cable plugs in. In the kit, Hobie gives you a power cable with the other end of that plug on it. They also give you a grommet, which you won't need for this boat since it already has one. But if you're installing one in a Hobie Kayak that doesn't come pre-installed with these cable routing grommets, this is a really handy piece to have. And then all the crimps necessary you'll need to install. All right, so now that we've got the battery mounted, it's just a matter of wiring up all your connections. So I've taken the cable that comes in the Hobie Fish Finder installation kit. I've actually cut quite a bit off because you'll see we're only running from right here to right here, so I really don't need a whole lot of extra cable. I'm going to take the fuse and the power cable that came with our Lowrance Hook 5, and then from there it's just a matter of making the connections inside the boat with the supplied crimp connectors that Hobie provides. Okay, so I've made all my connections, and now really at this point it's just as simple as plugging this side into the battery and running this side back through our hole. Just reach inside. All right, now that we've got our cables routed, the only step really left is to take the piece that we took off our cable gland. Much like the piece we took off on the back, there's a gasket. But this one actually has 3 different locations for cables. So here I've got 2. And some installations you may have more than 2 cables, but this one we just have the 2. So this is just like the process that we use on our back gland. We just need to find the right cable grommet to fit around here, put them back in, and then we'll get everything installed. So again, Hobie provides quite a few of these. You just need to go through and find the one that fits your cables. So for the power cable, we'll probably use this guy. Yeah, that's a good fit. And then for the transducer cable, we'll use that guy. You'll have a few of these left over, but that's okay. You know, you've got another gland on the other side if you ever wanted to wire anything else. I would go ahead and hang on to these, keep them in a safe place so you can find them later. At this stage, one thing you're going to want to make sure is that you actually give yourself enough slack. It'd be pretty frustrating if you set your grommets, bolted everything back into place and went and installed your units and you were a little short. So I actually like to give myself just a little slack. I don't want a bunch of cable hanging out because I don't want cable for my rods, reels, hooks to get hung up on. But I think that should give me just about enough right there. One thing you're going to want to make sure you do is actually install your gasket onto the cables. Just kind of push it down, get it over the labels. Snug it up down to the hole and get it out of the way. We'll come back to it later. And then we just need to reposition the deck grommet and get everything back in place. And now all that's left to do is just put the screws back in. Get everything lined up. The grommet, the gasket. And the last thing to do is just put this guy back together. Put your grommet on. Kind of got to wiggle it around a little bit to get it to go in. Pull a little slack out. You know it'll be a tight seal. And now we reach back inside the boat and install the nut. Okay, now that we have the transducer and the power wired up, the last thing to do is install the unit. When we were showing the unboxing, I showed this bracket. You could use it if you wanted to just screw it straight to the boat right here. Hobie gives you these nice plastic plates that you can actually bolt things down to, screw through. There's even a spot for your cables to come up if you didn't want to run them up over the side. We're not going to use that in this installation. We're going to use the Hobie H-rail with a ram ball and a round mount made specifically for our Hook family of products. H-rail is really simple. There's a clamp and a tensioning rod. All you have to do is get the clamp mounted where you want. Loosen up the connector a little bit, snap it in place, get that mounted, and just snug it up. That gives me the flexibility of having a ram ball anywhere on this arm that I want or on the other side. And then from there, it's just a matter of adding the ram piece, plugging in our cables, and installing it in the back of the unit. Nice simple installation, allows me to adjust the angle I want. That way I can see it from my seat when I'm sitting down. If I'm standing up, I could adjust it up. But it gives a nice clean finish, really simple to install, simple to remove when you're ready to leave and go for the day. Now that we've got everything installed and mounted, the next step is to get on the water and go catch some fish. This video has shown how simple it is for anybody to install one of these with just a little time and simple hand tools.